Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had an amazing Thursday so far and a great week. Today, we're going to be diving into Vechain. We're also going to be taking a look at Vechain Thor, which is the kind of smart contract level within the Vechain ecosystem, and how potentially they are looking to get into the Metaverse. Metaverse is a big craze at the moment. It's the rage, and Vechain are dipping a toe into this realm via VimWorld, which is kind of like a gaming, NFT, one-stop shop for everything kind of Metaverse, if you will. So we're going to be diving into that. We are going to be getting into a number of things in this video. One thing that I really want to take a look at is the Vechain versus Ethereum chart. We know one trait that Vechain embodies is that it's a laggard, and this chart represents that very, very well. You can see you have these kind of long, drawn-out periods, downturn periods. Typically, markets will do quite well. Certainly, Ethereum will perform and outperform Vechain before Vechain then plays catch-up, and we see that continuation. And what I want you to pay attention to is where we are in the RSI before these kind of rallies to the upside, where we see Vechain gain strength against Ethereum, and where you are today currently, and why I think this is going to happen. I'm still exceptionally bullish on Vechain. We made a video the other day where we actually spoke about the fact that Vechain is really just held hostage by the overall cryptocurrency market conditions, which have a whole load of variables going into them in determining whether they go up or down. So Vechain doesn't really move on its own merit. We are going to get into the short term. Very, very quickly, let me just reiterate the fact that I still believe Vechain is going over $1. I think when this market starts to move, you're going to see Vechain do very, very well. And you can really see, can you see with this pump and then this pullback, this pump and then this pullback? What's driving this? What's causing this? Well, Bitcoin, pump, pullback. It's just following Bitcoin like the rest of the market follows Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin is that tide that rises and sinks all ships. And Bitcoin is now a more mature market, and we've been doing daily updates where we've looked at things like oil. We've looked at things like, you know, the things that are involved in the traditional financial space and how Bitcoin is kind of getting caught up in this, and crypto is as a whole. Certainly with a $2.5 trillion market cap, you know, we are now a more mature market that is really a part of global finance now, and we get affected by a lot of the same stuff. March 2020 was a fantastic example of this, because when people look for liquidity, they go to the dollar. Everything's pegged against the dollar, etc., etc. So that's we've explained that a lot. Those videos are well worth a watch. The daily crypto updates. This is interesting. This is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting Vechain to do very, very well in comparison with certainly Ethereum, and this really embodies and recreates and really shows you what we're talking about when we say that it's a laggard. It goes on a long drawn out period before you then get an impulsive move to the upside, and it outperforms and does very well, typically after the rest of the market has. So we're still expecting new all-time highs. Let me just point out what happens. Can you see when you go on to make new all-time highs, you actually go on a very nice run. I'm expecting the same thing to take place. I don't think it's long, guys. I think ultimately what's happening, we've kind of abandoned the end of year super pump parabola in a similar way to 2017 and 2013. You're allowed to change your mind and opinion in this market, certainly when new data reveals itself. Ultimately, and I've been saying this for a couple of months now, I do believe that the Bitcoin cycles are lengthening from top to top. So I don't think the bull run is over. I still think we've got quite a while to go. And the altcoins within that are, of course, going to be a part of that. So there is still more to come out of this bull run. It's just largely dependent on everything else that's going on, and Vechain is really caught up in that. But Vechain, in terms of a blockchain, is exceptionally bullish in what they've got going on. These guys are partnered with BMW, McDonald's, Walmart, you name it, these guys are partnered with them. They've pretty much got a monopoly on China in relation to blockchain. They're constantly on talks about how blockchain is revolutionizing the world. They are a supply chain blockchain. They do have the VETHO. By the way, now many people don't actually know what VETHO is. I stake my Vechain to get VETHO, and this is a really good diagram, and this is the kind of smart contract level of Vechain, where you can see DeFi. And in relation to this tweet that I am going to bring up, this is a reminder, the first Vechain Thor Day is happening live today in just 6 hours at 8 p.m. UTC. Join us. Presents Entering VimWorld, an Open Metaverse. This is something I'm excited about. VimWorld is kind of like a one-stop shop for everything NFT, everything Metaverse, you know, all that sort of stuff. I haven't actually used this, but it's another driving factor for Vechain. Not that they haven't already got a lot on their own merit. You know, the supply chain industry is huge. People say, okay, well, it's only X amount of billion. But it's not just that. I mean, VeChain could literally solve the counterfeit goods market, solve the problem that is counterfeits, with a immutable. You know, we're seeing it time and time again that VeChain can verify. We saw it with a sneaker company, I think, in the US, how they've worked with VeChain to implement kind of verification on their goods. And this is the first of many deals and partnerships that VeChain are going to embody, because blockchain is just superior, not just for supply chain, but on a number of different levels. Record keeping, you know, you can do anything on the blockchain and it's immutable, secure, and it doesn't involve third-party cooperation and trust. So markets are seeing a little bit of a sell-off. It's due to all the uncertainty today, but VeChain is just a part of that. VeChain's time is coming, ladies and gentlemen. VeChain is very, very high beta, and what I mean by that is it gets kind of thrown around a lot more than the rest of the market. This has quite a bit to do, in my opinion, with the fact that they aren't listed on many exchanges and the liquidity isn't there in order for them to kind of not get thrown around as much. There's no mitigating. They're on Binance, KuCoin, and Huobi, but they're not on things like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, etc., etc. So this is all still to come. No reason why VeChain isn't listed on these exchanges. I think it's more that they're just not that bothered about pumping the price, if you will. They're more focused on building a solid, immutable blockchain that has real-world use cases and an actual value behind it, rather than just moon everything. So we're a big fan of VeChain. We still think we're on this roadmap. Let's jump into the smaller time frame very quickly before I wrap this video up. This is really what we've got at play. I want to show you some interesting things here. Now, what I want to do is, let's redraw these fibs to show you some of the levels. So we have this big kind of triangle. We did a similar thing over here, guys. Symmetrical triangle. You've held this as support. You've held it again as support. Not only that, you've broken out of your descending resistance. You've come back and now you've held the whole thing as support, ready, in my opinion, for more continuation. It doesn't have to happen. If the market slams down, you will slam down with it. We're under no illusion about that. You also are forming... Let's drop down to the 4-hourly to show you this. Can you see this? A falling wedge right now, ladies and gentlemen. Or a version of a falling wedge, I should say. And this is in a similar kindred fashion to what we did over here. And ultimately, I do expect VeChain to break to the upside, but it is largely dependent on the overall market. And like I say, as long as the conditions are there, VeChain will do very well. In much the same way that Bitcoin really mirrored this structure here, again here, and we're expecting that continuation, providing global markets do well as a whole, because we're in this different category now. VeChain should do quite well. Now, what I want to do is put the fib retracement tool on. Can you see where it was that you actually bottomed out and retraced at? This is just rough. We're putting this on, so don't expect it to be exact, but we'll get it as close as possible. In this kind of gold zone between your 0.65, which most people don't put on the charts, and your 0.786. If you can see where we kind of went down to in this one. Same sort of zone, similar sort of bounce area with a bit of a nasty wick. Could you be looking at more continuation? It is possible. There is always the chance of more downside. Do not kid yourselves and come under any kind of illusion. Next thing I want to do, we'll put it on the daily very, very quickly. So from the start of here, in terms of this move as a retracement, look at where you're bouncing, guys. Round about here. So you can see that you are coming up, finding resistance, finding support, finding resistance, finding support. I think this is going to be a continual uptrend now with volatility associated with it. So I'm not worried about VeChain one bit. I think on a number of different charts it looks great. I think on the VeChain Ethereum chart it looks fantastic. I think really we just need to wait and see what markets do as a whole. VeChain is just going to follow suit. And markets right now are really pegged to the kind of global macroeconomic landscape, which is all a bit up in the air due to things like the new variant, things like, you know, the Fed. We've covered the Fed in great detail over the past couple of days, coming out and saying they're going to start tapering off buybacks of bonds and stop sort of inflation and combat it, and maybe might rise rates. Lots of if, buts, and maybes. They're in a rock and a hard place there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because we don't just exist in this crypto bubble anymore. We exist in a far and by bubble, what I don't mean is something that's going to pop. I mean, we don't just exist in our own realm. We're now tied to the traditional financial realm, and you need to take that into account and move accordingly. And this is, you know, another great use case for VeChain, through Vechain VET, getting into the metaverse with some of these projects. So there's lots going on that people perhaps miss out. VeChain, you know, they had the huge upgrade. You can see these guys are just partnering with everybody. You can actually use and implement VeChain as a purchase option in your e-commerce store. Super bullish blockchain that does not get the credit that it deserves. It should absolutely not be a 27th in terms of market cap. There are a number of projects that it should be significantly higher than, guys, and not. I think CHAINLINK should be a lot higher than where it is as well. So that's really all I have for you in this video. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. It was just a VeChain update video. We've not covered it in a little while, so I thought now would be the right time. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. If you've enjoyed the content, like is always appreciated. So is a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching.